Hello, Ms. Bickerton.
Hello, Mr. Grace.
And we're the Bickerton Grace Gallery.
Hi.
And today we have a wonderful guest in, Dr Pam, who's going to talk to us about her artwork and her journey.
And we are very excited. And first of all, we would just love to know, knowing you and where you've come from, tell us a little bit about you before you got to this point.
Well, I have been for over 2 decades working as a psychologist, agony aunt, life coach and sort of social commentator. I was in the NHS for a while, researching parenting methods where families were in difficulties and how best to support families with children with difficulties. And I'll tell you, art came into that.
Yeah.
You know, art therapy is very important with children.
Absolutely.
And expressing their needs, and you can read so much from what they paint or draw. And I love that work, but after many years in the NHS, I decided to work privately. I developed a media career, was doing a radio show on Heart FM here in London, and that was for 5 years. And at the same time, I was doing coaching, life coaching, kept up the coaching throughout all the media work.
And the books, you've had books, probably 15?
I've written 15 books, yes.
Amazing.
I'm just working on the synopsis for a new self-help book, which I hope to put to a publisher. So, writing articles for all of the national newspapers, different websites. So always giving some sort of advice.
And they're all self-help books?
Yeah, because I really believe we have so much power within us to actually help ourselves. And I think a lot of people think, oh, well, if someone is reading a self-help article, that's not the way to go. It is, because if you give practical advice that people can use in their daily life, you help to change their life.
Yeah.
And over the years I've had really humbling messages from people who say, your book really helped me, or your radio show, that article I read, and you gave me tips about how to communicate with my partner. And there's nothing better than thinking that you've given people tools.
Yeah.
You haven't done the work, they've done the work.
And it's hearing something at the right time, isn't it?
Yeah,
sometimes
absolutely.
that message comes through just when you need it.
And it might be the simplest of the messages as well that they pick up on, that
absolutely
changes their direction.
Yeah, simple messages like, just for today, I'm going to try not to think about things that make me anxious. So that people start living a more day-by-day and mindful life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, from all of that...
Which is an incredibly, it's a massive journey.
An incredible journey.
It's incredible. So.
And then we met you a few months ago.
Yes,
at
through
an
a
art
mutual
fair,
friend.
Through a mutual friend at the art fair, when you told us about what you were doing, and then we came to see these pictures, and they are quite incredible. But what I find most incredible about these is what's behind them, because there are stories behind these, aren't there? These aren't just beautiful colours.
Yeah, and when I came to your exhibition at the Century Club, and I didn't want to see anything before I got there, and I just wanted to be surprised by it, and I really, really was surprised, and I kind of understood, having spoken to you privately about the collection. I kind of got the message. I really understood the message, and I think that's
again. I'm using this word again. That's really humbling to hear you say that, because I've been inspired over the years that I've mainly been working with women since I've worked privately about their stories and how, even in the most dire circumstances, there's always been a glimmer of hope or some sort of spark of positivity. And we've kind of latched on that in coaching sessions or even on radio shows where people say, my husband's left me, one of my children has a severe disability, and if it wasn't for my best friend, then, I don't know if I'd still be here. And we latch onto that positivity, make the most of that best friend. How can she or he be in your life more? Yeah. So all these stories, the weird thing is, I've always known when people talk to me, I kind of go away with this sense of the colors. And I know that sounds weird, but I often, a coaching session will be over, or a radio show I've done, I've been talking really intense topics to people, and I'm left with this sense of colours.
Yeah. It's like their energy.
It is their energy. That's a good way of putting it. I hadn't thought of it that way.
That's emotions crossing over as well, isn't it? Or senses crossing over.
I think so.
Because
that's what
some
it
people
is.
would regard an oud fragrance as the colour red, or those are the senses that are crossing over.
I think that is another. I'm really talking to you. You're making more sense of what I feel has been this weird quirk of mine. When leaving a sort of a situation, I think I just have these colours come into my mind, and images of what they've been talking about.
So each one of your images, is it a different story? Is it
Absolutely.
a different story of somebody else's journey and your translation of their particular story?
Exactly. That's when every painting is directly referenced to someone's story. And I have a couple paintings that relate to women who've gone through a breast cancer treatment and what they've talked to me about. Loss of relationships, loss of jobs, loss of a sense of identity, a lot of body image issues that women have talked to me. A lot of my paintings have to do with body image.
Which is so topical, isn't it? I mean, it's even more with the rise in social media, and
absolutely,
it's really, really topical.
Because now we're talking about how people's
damaging it
insecurities,
is as well.
How people's insecurities feed into their body image. And online they see, oh, everybody looks perfect, and I always say that's just a little snapshot of their life at that moment. But then it makes you feel worse about your. Women have complained to me about their large hips or their misshapen breasts, or one is bigger than the other, or they hate their big breasts, or they hate their small breasts. Because I did a piece of body image research a decade ago, and in that we interviewed loads of women about their specific body image issues. And so a wealth of images came to me from all that work about all these women how we're struggling, men too now. And now some of my more recent paintings have, which I don't have with me here today, but have reflected more of what some men have expressed to me, particularly like in radio phone-ins. I've worked for stations where we've had more male callers.
Is that something that's evolved just recently, or have you always been helping women predominantly, I suppose, but also men as well?
Yeah, it's always been more about more women seeking help, more women contact my website. On the whole, as I was saying, some of the radio shows I've done, there have been more men who've called in. But predominantly, most of the stories I paint come from women's experiences, and maybe because I relate more in that sense, But it's not a new thing. As a teenager, I was doing pottery, I was doing painting, I was doing drawing.
So it's always been an expression for you,
It was when my children arrived very early. I unexpectedly became pregnant in the middle of my university degree, doing my BSc in psychology, and kept him, thank goodness. And that kind of stopped the sort of my artistic side. Although with my own children, always we were doing arts and crafts.
But they became the focus.
Exactly.
Which again is part of your journey, isn't it? So it's in full flow now, and we've got some beautiful pieces around that. Pam, tell us about this piece.
Okay, well, this is a piece about renewal, because this woman had gone through 2 bereavements, and that's where this dark sort of sense of foreboding, almost like forest undergrowth or something comes. But she then came to a sense of, after coaching sessions, that, like she said to me, I feel like springtime has come up again to me. I feel like I'm going to enjoy life now.
Wow.
And with her talk of springtime and her bereavements, these images started coming to mind, that hopeful colours against the base of her recent life experiences. And
it's very rich and deep, meaningful colours, though. There's a lot of richness in the colours.
But I'm glad you can see that way, that for her, life was becoming like spring. That she just felt this renewal. And I know people, have noticed, I use a lot of different things, of course brushes, but I use sandpaper, when sometimes the paint is just drying to sand off. I use sponges, little sponges. I use funny enough, I used a hairbrush on one painting. I've used a mango to get certain effects.
Yeah.
I bought this mango. It was all nubbly. I didn't use it on this painting, but I did on one painting that was at the exhibition, and it just gave amazing effects. So I'm always looking for little things that can add to the brushwork.
So do you find when you're painting these, do they just evolve as you're doing it?
Yes.
So you're thinking about the story.
Good question, because normally I have a few images in my head from the story, and then I start aiming for how do I express these images in colours, and then that's what starts emerging.
And the story is a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Yeah, there is.
So you can, if you've got that formatted in your head, and then it's just expressed through the shapes and the colours.
Exactly.
And the textures as well.
And the textures, because I really feel the textures are very important for different aspects of the paintings. The textures on this almost foliage around her female form, for me, it gives that sense of spring, as she said. I always take what people say, it's weird, it's almost literally, but then the colours and movement spring to
And
mind.
how do you know when you finished? Because
I often go
find
back
these
about 5 times.
Yeah,
I add and because I use acrylics and they dry fast,
they
I
dry
will,
very fast.
and sometimes on purpose. There was one piece on sex addiction, the woman who was recovering from sex addiction that you would have seen at the exhibition. And that I went back to about 5 times to layer, because she said one of her worst memories of her years as a sex addict was a sense of just men's hands all over her. And so I really built up layers on that just to give a sense of flesh.
Oh, I love that.
And one person said to me, it almost looks like a piece of meat. And I said, yes, because she felt like a piece of meat.
Yeah.
And so to me, going back many times, because I use acrylic, I've never used oils, maybe I should experiment, I probably should, but
They
you
take
have
a little
to
bit
go
longer
back.
to dry.
Which is nice though, because you can keep working it. Keep working them, yeah.
But with acrylic, I find that just being able to go back helps me express what I'm thinking. You know.
Fantastic.
So yeah, that is the answer. So the ones we've got in front of us now, this one here.
And these are very new, aren't they? These are very recent.
Yes.
Yes,
And
So let's talk about this one, because I can see things going on in this picture, and it'd be lovely for you to explain this.
well, this is a very positive painting of a woman I coached who had body image issues about her breasts. And that's a very common body image issue that we women have. And she started to actually feel that she was almost by the end of the times we had together, that she was reveling in her breasts. That she had completely changed her attitude from being kind of shy and embarrassed about them to actually think, actually, I'm great, they're great the way they are. And so one of my family members who saw the painting, recently said, it looks almost like a bouquet of breasts. And I'm like, that's an interesting way of putting it.
Is that what you're going to title it?
Well, I don't know.
I love that as a title.
So it's a really positive one where she, there is some of the darker things going on. But there is the vibrant colours as she emerged thinking, actually, I love my breasts, and I might even go on a topless beach this summer, that kind of thing.
And then,
that's an incredible reaction as well, then, isn't it, from somebody that wasn't at all confident.
It's wonderful when you coach someone and
wonderful
you have
result for that.
to see their success.
and do they see the images?
Well, when I
person
do,
you've got in
because
mind,
I'm always aware of confidentiality.
Yes, of
What I
course.
do is I take people I've spoken to from many years back in my career, because the thing is, their stories stick with me. I've got a good memory for feeling, and as you said, it's interesting, the sensory interplay with what people have told me and how I end up feeling the colours. And I hadn't really thought of it that way. And you're talking about the energy. That energy, certain stories and certain people stick with me.
Yeah.
And so...
Well, they influence you as much as you influence them, really.
Well,
don't
yeah,
they?
you can't help it,
You
but
can't be untouched by it.
Absolutely.
It's impossible,
Though in professional training, you learn you have to set boundaries, else you would go in burdened with everyone's problems, but you are touched, and that's different than being
Emotion, you carry their emotions, don't you? You can feel it with you when somebody imparts something to you and it's an emotional thing. You can't help but feel that and carry that with you. And that then gets passed on.
Yeah, well, it is almost, I have felt great release since I took up painting last summer again, after all those years.
Yeah.
And with a vengeance.
Yeah.
All my spare time now goes into it. And I know when we first met, you commented on, wow, this has just been waiting to burst out. And I said, yeah, it has. It's kind of like
well, it's
crazy.
bursting at the seams. It's like it's a lifetime of knowledge that is now being expressed through the medium of art. Yeah. It's a story being told through the medium of art.
It really is.
And it's an incredible story. These are they're beautiful paintings. The use of colour is amazing, and they're also, I think, really quite complicated.
There's a lot going on when you look at them, isn't there? And you can see more and more the more you look.
Yeah. And this other picture here, what's the
well, that was a woman who was emerging from depression, and again, with so many of my paintings, there is a lot of sort of a sense of painting the body too. So although, without looking straight at it, they are supposed to be sort of breasts there, and because her depression kind of influenced how she felt about her entire self and her entire life. And that's why, this was painted from the memories of her kind of emerging from depression, but still through her medical doctor, she was on antidepressants. But in our coaching sessions, she was working well on her day-to-day life.
Yeah.
So there's a vibrant, I felt almost her heart, there was this vibrant need to really start embracing life again.
And break free from the depression.
Exactly. But still, I used sort of sponges on top of the paintwork here with the black to just kind of put in that sense that there was still this lurking depression.
Yeah.
And that maybe, for her, just learning to live with depression, as some people with chronic depression manage really well, that there may always be this kind of sense that she has to be aware and yet still embrace life.
Do you know, it almost gives me goosebumps when you look at the picture and then you know what's going on behind it. As you kind of look into it more and hear what it really means, it kind of makes me feel.
And that's the understanding I had at the exhibition. I really got every image that we spoke about. It really came to life, and I really understood it. I understood the images. I also, even the two stories here, the use of colour in the two stories is so different, and yet the stories are so different as well.
They are very different.
So
to the one behind us.
Yeah.
Very different feeling from all of the pictures, aren't they?
Well, that's the thing about
and because they are
people's stories.
They're very different.
They're very different,
yeah.
and I know at the exhibition you both came to. I tried to put a range in, although a couple of people said to me, "Oh, I do like that theme you've got with those couple of paintings where there were a similar colour palette." And I said, well, just because those colours spoke to me on both those stories, even though they were very different images. But that one guest said, I really like that sort of palette on those two, and but everybody responds differently.
They do, and seeing a piece of artwork, somebody will look at it for the story, and then other people will look at it because they have a space those colours just look amazing in that space, like they do here today in the studio against this massive white wall. They look so beautiful, don't they? So people are seeing it for different reasons.
Well, you've brought up a really good point. There's one painting at the exhibition where it's a double mastectomy patient, and I'd spoken to her on a radio show I'd done about breast cancer. This is about 7-8 years back, and to me, the painting expressed how. It's called Fantasies of Healthy Breasts, and there's a lot of darkness, and then there are different images of breasts sort of scattered around. And one person said to me, at the exhibition, I love that painting, it's so uplifting. And they hadn't read the title. And I said, well, I'm glad you respond that way, because this is what it was actually about. And they went, wow. Oh my gosh, I didn't see that in the painting. Now that you said that, I can see that, but I almost kind of like people having their own interpretations.
That's what it is.
It's an emotional response.
Well, we're going to we're going to revisit this again with more images and more paintings of from your wonderful collection in in a few weeks' time.
I can't wait.
Welcome to the Bickerton Grace Gallery. It's
Thank
been
you so
amazing
much.
having you here.
It is such an exciting thing you guys are doing. It's wonderful.
Yeah, it's really exciting because of the amount of wonderful and talented people that we're meeting as well, and it's building this wonderful
And just
community.
knowing the background of people, I think, just brings these to life, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Because seeing pictures in a book, in a magazine, even on a wall, when you don't speak to the person or know what they're about, they just become a beautiful picture or an interesting picture. But yes, the story makes it very special, especially for us.
So, for more information on Dr Pam Spur, visit us at thebickertongracegallery.com or email us on
info@bickertongracegallery.com.
and we'll speak to you very soon.